It is Monday, January 4th, 2015, and welcome to the Multifarious Man Podcast, Episode 15, Back to the Future. As always, I am your host, Jay Vincent. Happy New Year, everyone. Can you believe it is already 2016? I just got used to writing 2015, and now I have to get used to another year. So I'll have a bunch of documents and notes with 2015 crossed out and 2016 scribbled in. So we don't have flying cars and real hoverboards, but so what? We have seen self-driving cars, consumer-level virtual reality, and smartwatches, smart bands, and a plethora of smart devices are starting to hit their mainstream strides. I've been a fan of year-in-review articles, lists, TV specials, and the like for years, so I decided the Multifarious Man podcast would have its own version. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about all the things I loved in 2015. Now, my list is a combination of returning favorites, unexpected discoveries, and the stuff that lived up to the hype in the world of books, television, film, and music, along with some things from the world of tech and computers. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Numerous and varied, greatly diverse and manifold. All the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand. I'm the multifarious man.
All right, we're back. And I'm proud to say that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/multifariousman. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. So for you, the listeners of the Multifarious Man podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out the service. Now, I recommend checking out one of the many things they have available, whether it's something like a classic like Journey to the Center of the Earth, or even The Hobbit, which has not only the narrated version, but it also has a dramatized version with the full cast. Or maybe you're into something like a new classic like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or maybe you're into horror like Stephen King's It. Now, to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/multifariousman. Again, that's audibletrial.com/multifariousman for your free Audible book. So if you're riding on the 405 freeway in LA, sitting in traffic, or you're on the LIE in New York, or on whatever major boulevard you ride to every day, sitting in traffic is not fun. Why make it even harder or get frustrated? Listen to an Audible book today. Now, we're back, and what we're going to talk about is what I was reading and watching and listening to during that final week of the year. First up, what I'm reading is Limitless. Now, this is a book by the author Robert J. Crane, and it's book one of the Out of the Box series. His first series, which I actually read throughout this year, was called, subtitled Girl in the Box. And basically it's a world where metahumans, which are kind of like mutants, have existed for years, and the title character discovers that she has powers. So this is a continuation of that series. Takes place about 2 years after the Girl in the Box series, and this is Out of the Box. Now that everyone knows about metahumans, and she begins her first adventure. Next up, what am I watching? This was an old favorite for me that actually was saved by Netflix. It used to be on the A&E network, and it's called Longmire. Now, this is a typical, well, not so typical procedural series about a sheriff out in Wyoming. This guy's old school, wears a cowboy hat. He's your typical cowboy, rides a horse, lives by himself out on a ranch, and he doesn't have a cell phone. So anytime a call comes in or he's out with one of the deputies, he has to borrow one of their cell phones if they're not calling someone on the CB or the radio. It's an interesting series. I was a little sad at the end of season 3 when it looked like it was being canceled and there was some major plot points that hadn't been resolved. But thanks to the folks over at Netflix, they brought it back, and actually it's been renewed again for the 5th season. So just finished watching season 3 and 4 on Netflix, and I can't wait to see what happens in season 5. For some of you people out there that were fans of Battlestar Galactica, Starbuck, Katie Sackhoff, is actually stars on the show. She's one of the deputies. So it's definitely worth checking out. As far as music going on, I'm still been listening to Adele all the time. There's another group that's out called 21 Pilot. They have a new single out, and I haven't Shazammed it yet, but it's definitely something I can sing along to. Check the show notes. I'll have the name of the song next time it comes on and I figure out what it's called. But the group is called 21 Pilot. And that's it, really, for what I'm reading, watching, and listening to. When we come back, I want to get into my list of the best of 2015. So hang on tight, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Multifarious Man Podcast, episode 15, Back to the Future. So 2015, many things, many new shows, new books, new music came out this year. There's some artists that returned after being away for a long time, and now they're back, and you get to enjoy them again. And of course, the 800-pound gorilla, Star Wars The Force Awakens, comes back. So episode 7 was released near the end of the year, and it's breaking all types of box office records. But I'm jumping ahead of myself, so here we go. I'm going to tell you about all the wonderful things I enjoyed this year. Some were new discoveries, and again, some were things I was already looking forward to. And yes, once again, there is no new Game of Thrones book. So once again, George R.R. Martin has continued to not finish the latest book. So you'll probably finish the series on HBO before he finishes the next book. But fret not, there's still wonderful things out there. So what were the things I discovered this year in the world of books? Now, this first series, I have my wife to thank. She found this author, J.R. Ward, and her fabulous series, which is the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. In previous episodes, I've mentioned different books within the series, and I believe it was a total of 13 books. And now she's continued writing the Legacy series. So she continues to write within this world, and it's exciting. So in this world, there's a secret war between vampires and lessers. Lessers are kind of like zombie-like creatures created by an evil devil-like figure, and they wage a war behind the scenes, and their whole thing is they try to keep it secret from humans because, of course, that's not going to be beneficial to any of them if humans find out about this war. But needless to say, wonderful characters. Each book in the series kind of gives you an introduction to one of the members of the Brotherhood and, something about their love life, whether, something with them and their mate, or they just discover a mate, or maybe they're just discovering that they're actually a vampire or a reincarnated vampire. But there's a lot of back and forth. It's quite modern. It takes place in upstate New York, and the author has a love of hip-hop and modern TV shows. So the characters are always talking about, things like Real Housewives. They, even talking about hip-hop music, from your Tupac to your Biggie, to your West Coast, Dr. Dre. So the characters are well versed. They're modern. They're, even though they have this secret society, they go out to clubs. They go out drinking. They hang out. All the while they're dealing in these life or death battles. So Black Dagger Brotherhood series, really fell in love with it. Excellent. Next is one I discovered later on in the year, which is the Kate Daniels Magic series by the husband and wife author going by the name of Ilona Andrews. And of course, the title character within this series is Kate Daniels. She's human, but she lives in a post-apocalyptic Atlanta after, technology has been destroyed. Magic has come back full force, and it has shapeshifters, everything from werewolves to werebears to any type of animal you can think of, shapeshifter, and vampires. And of course, there's a whole mythology, who her parents are, who she's dating. It's a nice, fun series. A lot of magic, a lot of romance, a lot of adventure. It's written in the first person, so you always have Kate Daniels' point of view. There's a few offshoot novels that deal with minor characters, also told from their point of view, but for the most part, it revolves around the main character. Next thing I discovered this year, which was probably in January, and as I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm actually reading the next series by this author, and this was the Girl in the Box series by Robert J. Crane. And as I said a little bit before, this is a world where metahumans exist, but people don't know about it. But now it gets out. So this whole series about this young lady, she's lived her entire life in a house in the Midwest. She's never been outside, never been around anyone but her mother, until one day, trouble literally comes knocking on her door and her mother disappears. And it's an adventure of discovery. She meets new people. She discovers her powers. And, each book she gets more and more powerful. And she's fighting this battle. Again, everything is the world is ending. But, again, when you have people with powers, there are people that use them for good and people that use them for bad. So this whole thing is about how she tries to figure out, well, who's on the good side, who's on the bad side, who is out for themselves, who is double dealing. The government knows about it and they're trying to control it, and you have different organizations, and it's a globe-trotting adventure, but it's truly interesting. It deals with, how this young lady comes into her powers, how she learns how to interact with people when, she's been isolated for her whole life, and now she's out. How do you deal with emotions? How do you deal with interactions when all is from what you've seen on television? So interesting series. Check it out. Robert J. Crane is the author. Another fabulous surprise, and this was a single novel, and I believe it's actually already been optioned and it's being developed by Steven Spielberg as a movie. And this is called Ready Player One. Now just imagine a futuristic world where there's this online game that is 100% fully immersive virtual reality, and there's this uber billionaire out there that dies, and in the will, he basically says anyone that can solve this game in this virtual world, find all these clues, will inherit his fortune. So of course the main protagonist, this young kid, who's really good at it, he's found a clue that no one's ever found before. Like this contest has been going on for years at the time that the story starts, and he discovers something, and now the race is on. There's corporate sponsors that pool their resources and try to buy up a bunch of people. So it's kind of like, if you've ever played EverQuest or games like that, there are people that pay money, real money, to have people sit in a room and just farm in-game currency. So there's that type of situation. There's the whole thing about how do you know that the people you meet in this virtual world, you don't know their gender. You don't know if someone that looks like a girl is just using that avatar, because no one in this world uses their true image. They all use avatars, so just imagine any first-person shooter or, massively multiplayer game where you project who you want to be. You can make yourself look like you want. So it's all about trust and technology and, real world versus virtual world. And there's real life or death stakes because there's a lot of money involved and people are willing to kill for it. So Ready Player One. Next is an autobiography, of sorts written by Felicia Day. And if you've ever listened to this show or if you're a fan of anything in the world of sci-fi and tech, you've heard of Felicia Day. She had her online series, The Guild. She's guest starred on Supernatural. She's been on other sci-fi shows. So Felicia Day, she wrote a book called You're Never Weird on the Internet. And it just talks about her life from a young age until now and the things that she's dealt with and developed and interacted with, whether it's from fans or developing a show or having a star status. Very interesting, very funny. She has a very whimsical take on things, and it's a quite enjoyable read. You could probably finish it in one day. So if you're interested in things like that, memoirs, check out You're Never Weird on the Internet by Felicia Day. And the final book is one I probably had in my collection for years, but I never got around to reading it. Yes, I do that. I have tons of books, an amazing backlog, and even though I read 50 books in 2015, this one had been sitting on my shelf for a while. And it's by an author by the name of Dennis Lehane, which, if you've ever heard of Mystic River or Shutter Island, yes, those were, developed into movies, or Gone Baby Gone. He's the author. So he's a mystery writer, and this one's a little different. Takes place at turn of the century, the last century, so in the mid-18 range. Babe Ruth is a figure in the book, and it deals with class warfare in Boston. And it's a really interesting tale. Many different families are intertwined, and it gives a really interesting perspective on that time in the past. It's a really good read. It's part mystery, part drama. It's definitely worth taking the time. It's a pretty long book. Takes a little bit to get into it, but once you do, you won't be disappointed. And you'll learn to love and enjoy the characters. And Dennis Lehane has a very distinct writing style, and he really does understand the voice of his characters. So definitely give it a chance. It's called The Given Day. And if you read that, you'll probably be interested in checking out some of his mystery novels, like A Drink Before War, Gone Baby Gone. There's a whole series, and it's definitely worth it. So those were the books and the things I discovered for the year. Excited to read a bunch of new things in 2016. I already have my backlog or things I want to read that I've already posted on Goodreads. So I'm excited for 2016. There's always something good to actually read. So next, music. Wow. Music for 2015, it was a very interesting year. Taylor Swift continued to reign supreme. Her album came out at the end of 2014, and it really hit its stride. So it's 1989. She's a full-on pop superstar now. She had the full tour, released single after single, video after video, and it's been on a lot of top charts, top selling for the year. And, as my daughters have been a fan of Taylor Swift from her country days and when she first came out to, where she is now, it's amazing to see an artist actually grow in front of your eyes and grow in their artistry. And I can say that I'm a fan of the album. I can listen to it straight through. I can shuffle it, listen to it on repeat. And it's definitely enjoyable. A nice entry. And, sometimes it's nice to see someone take on new challenges. And actually show the world more of what they can do. So 1989 by Taylor Swift. Also returning to the stage and to recording studio and to the record stores this year was the, wonderful, fabulous, phenomenal Janet Jackson. She released her album Unbreakable. I think it's her first studio album in 8 years, and actually launched a tour. Unfortunately, she's, had some throat issues and had to have some surgery. So starting this year, the tour has been postponed, but everything I hear in terms of the reviews of people that have seen the show, she's at the top of her game, dancing, singing, entertaining. The album Unbreakable is really enjoyable. It's classic Janet. She's back with the Uber producers, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Definitely worth checking out. That is Unbreakable by Janet Jackson. Another, person that returned, and kind of has had a resurgence in recent years is his Purple Badness, Prince. He released 2 albums, Hit and Run Phase 1 and 2, within a short period of time. He has a new band that he's performing with, Third Eyed Girl. And it's classic Prince, but, a lot of, nice club jams, party jams. He still is on top of his game. I mean, the man is in his 50s, looks like he's in his 30s, and he's captured that sound, the classic 80s, late 80s, early 90s Prince sound. Definitely worth checking out. Hit and Run, Phase 1 and Phase 2. This one I almost forgot. D'Angelo is back. I mean, he released a new album at the end of 2014, so I'm counting this as 2015 because it was about mid-December, and it's called Black Messiah. The man has been gone for years, greater than a decade, and he came back with this phenomenal, multi-layered album that you listen to it the first time and you're just in love with the music, the layers, the sounds. He's got like a funk guitar that is throughout. He plays a lot of guitar now. In some of his other albums he didn't as much, but he plays it throughout. It drives through every song, that you can listen to it for the music and enjoy it, and it's a great album. But then you go back and listen to the lyrics. He's a phenomenal songwriter, very topical, very ethereal. He has a feel for the hook. He has a feel for the poetry, the rhythm of the language. So definitely listen to it. It's Black Messiah by D'Angelo, and I think it was one of the top albums of 2015, and it's gonna stay in my playlist, and it's going to continue to be, listen to songs from that album, every week, if not multiple times in a week. Now, the biggest surprise I found in the world of music is Hamilton, the musical soundtrack. So basically, this is the soundtrack for the phenomenal, play Hamilton, which is about Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers. And it's a historical lesson. The music is a mix of rap, hip hop, R&B with some classical musical elements to it. So you feel a little bit of Sondheim in it and some of the overtures and things along that line. And it's by Lin-Manuel Miranda. This gentleman, wrote the musical, wrote the music, wrote the lyrics, stars in it as Alexander Hamilton. It's the toast of Broadway. I think the show on Broadway is sold out throughout 2016. They actually have a lottery that you can go online to try to get tickets. It used to be you'd go to the theater, but so many people were there that within the past week, they announced that it's going to be online only. But Hamilton, the music, cool. I'm telling you, rush to your computer, download it, go to your record store, get it. It is a phenomenal soundtrack. In my personal belief, it's one of the top hip-hop albums in several years. You can listen to it over and over again. In fact, one of my daughters, who's studying American history currently in middle school, really enjoys it because all of the lyrics tie in with things that were really happening back then, and it kind of gives you another view of this man that did so much to help form our nation, our constitution, our monetary system, national bank, things along that line, the Federalist Papers. If you're interested even a little bit in history, this will bring out that love, and if you love history, well, then you're really gonna love it. And it's just wonderful. It's that excitement of listening to this. It was probably my biggest surprise of 2015, and I still listen to it and find myself humming the songs or singing the songs, and it's it's like an earworm that gets in there, and listen to it when I'm going to sleep, listening to it when I'm working out, and it's definitely worth adding to your iPod or MP3 player. Hamilton the musical, go out and get it. One of the top of the year. So music, we're going to transition, of course, into television. It was a weird, strange year for television. There was some hit and misses, some things that, kind of fell off a little bit. But this list is really just about what the shows I thought either showed growth and, continued to hit it out the park, or they brought it back and, they recaptured some of the elements that were probably missing in previous seasons. So first up, of course, for me is Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's an ABC show. Takes place in the Marvel's universe, same universe as Captain America, the Avengers, Ant-Man, Iron Man. So, these are the regular people, or at least that's how the show started, and kind of what's taking place this year. Spoiler alert, it's like a fallout after the events in Captain America, Winter Soldier, when Hydra had been revealed as infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D., and all of the fallout since then, and of course events that have happened in the Avenger movies since then. And it deals with a team that is, trying to reform, trying to fight Hydra, and they discover this new group of people called Inhumans. So imagine mutants, humans mixed with alien DNA to have like mutant powers like the X-Men, even though they can't call it the X-Men, same universe, but this group of people are called the Inhumans. So the show is really kind of taken off with that storyline, and it's really picked up. If you haven't seen it, it's available probably on the ABC app. I think it's available the first few seasons on Netflix. You should definitely be watching this show. Now, along that same line is Marvel's Agent Carter, which takes place in the 40s and 50s. And I think this season is going to be 50s and 60s or something along that line. But basically, Agent Carter, who was in the Captain America movie, so it was someone that worked with Captain America in the 40s before he was frozen and came back for the Avengers, and it tells stories about her as an operative before S.H.I.E.L.D. was formed. So she's working for an agency that's kind of like the precursor of S.H.I.E.L.D., and of course she's going to go on to form S.H.I.E.L.D. with Iron Man's father. So check out the show. It's funny. It's a period piece. It's witty, great characters, great action. And Agent Carter kicks butt with the best of them. Next three are a few Netflix series that were well written, well received, well acted. Two of them, of course, in the Marvel universe. First up was Daredevil. And if you've ever heard of the Daredevil comic, this it basically stars. It's about a gentleman in Hell's Kitchen in New York. He's blind, but through some incident when he was younger, he can, see, kind of hear, or he can still function. And he becomes Daredevil, fighting the right fight. So he's a lawyer by day and fighting for justice as a vigilante by night. Excellent, well-grounded. Fight scenes are very, in-your-face, action-packed. They feel real. You can feel the punches. You can feel the flames in the city, the grittiness, and it just works. And in that same universe, they introduced Jessica Jones, which is kind of like, imagine if Veronica Mars grew up and she had powers. So it's part detective series, part superhero series. So, the title character, Jessica Jones, she has superpowers. She's super strong. She can jump real far. She's fast. But she doesn't want to be a superhero. And the whole premise is another supervillain that can do mind control used her powers to kill someone. So the whole series about her fighting her demons, not wanting to use her powers, but still wanting to help people. And she has a private investigating firm that she operates out of her apartment. And it's all about how she helps people. Jessica Jones, definitely check it out, and it fits right within the Marvel universe. The next show, also on Netflix, was a surprising sci-fi show called Sense8, and it's Sense with the number 8. And it's brought to you by the Wachowskis, who brought us the Matrix series. Yeah, people may complain about 2 and 3 in the Matrix, but just imagine the sense of wonder and love that you had for the initial Matrix, and you'll have that same sense of wonder when you check out Sense8. And the premise is there are people that Sense8s that can feel 7 other people, basically. And you can share thoughts. You can imagine someone that you're connected to knows kung fu. Well, if you're tuned in properly and in a time of need, when you're in danger and your adrenaline's pumping, suddenly they can kind of inhabit your body and control you, and now you know it. And it's the way it's shot, the way it's the dialogue, the imagery. When people are when they kind of show you how it works, and then that someone's inhabiting someone else because suddenly they're in another location and they're dealing with what they were dealing with, and it's back and forth, and there's a whole big mystery of discovery, and there are people after them. Exciting show. I can't wait to season 2, but if you have a weekend, check out check out Sense8. Next on my list is there are a few Amazon Prime shows I actually discovered later in the year. One's called Bosch, which is based on a series of novels, and it stars Titus Welliver, and he is a detective in L.A., and it starts off with him basically having a civil trial for unlawful death, for shooting a suspect. And the way the series starts, you kind of get a feeling that this character is going to be like Vic Mackey from The Shield, where you're thinking that he's going to be that guy that breaks the law, bends the law to do whatever he can to, get justice for people. And as it goes along, you find he has the determination of Vic Mackey, and he may have that edge, but this is a guy that, you'll have to see it to decide, but I think it's less likely as you go along that he's the guy that really will bend the law. He might bend it a little bit, go around the edges a little bit, but this is not a criminal with a badge. He's not Vic Mackey in that sense. For him, justice, the case is a thing. That's all he cares about. He has a teenage daughter who he hasn't seen in several years. He's divorced because for him, the case is the thing. So check it out, Bosch, on Amazon Prime. Next up is a surprising comedy, which, takes place in the world of classical music. It's about the fictional New York Symphony, and it's enigmatic new conductor. So there's a new Latin conductor that comes in. He's the new it boy, the new hotness, the new next best thing. And they bring him in to kind of spice things up. They force out the old conductor, played by Malcolm McDowell. It's an excellent character. Bernadette Peters is in it, of Broadway and stage fame. And it is a wonderful, wonderful show. There's wonderful characters. It's great to see into the world of a classical musical orchestra. I don't think people appreciate how much work they put into it, how much devotion they put into it, and it deals with their lives, and it kind of revolves around a young character as she tries to break into this world. It's a funny show. It's a half-hour comedy, and they just released the 2nd season. So if you have some time, I think it shouldn't take too long. You're talking about probably about 20 episodes, 2 seasons, 22 minutes each. Give it a shot. It's funny. It's well written. The characters are interesting, exciting. It's a wonderful show. In fact, I think they just were nominated for a couple of Golden Globes for Best Comedy and Best Actor. The last 3 shows, surprisingly or coincidentally, are all on NBC. One, Grimm, which just recently came back this fall, has kind of hit its stride lately. It kind of slowed down a little bit, and in the previous season, and then it tried to pick up things at the end of the last season. But now it's really gotten back to the fun, the excitement, the grittiness, the danger that makes it exciting. So Grimm, imagine Grimm's fairy tale. So in this world, there are these people called Grimms, and they have the ability to see the creatures that go bump in the night. They can see werewolves for what they really look like. So all the creatures from all the Grimm's fairy tales, your all your, stuff like chupacabras and mandingos. No, wendigos. Mandingo's something different. I'm sure people get a laugh about that. Wendigo. So all the creatures you've probably seen on the X-Files or Supernatural. But in this world, this guy is a cop, and he's fighting, of course, some grand worldwide scheme for domination. There's, end of the world type stuff going on now. There's secret organizations. There's, royalty. There's fights. There's danger. There's murder and mayhem. It's exciting. It's really hit its stride this season. Can't wait till it comes back from winter break. Definitely check it out. It's Grimm. I think all of the previous seasons are probably available on the NBC app, or if not, maybe on Netflix. But check the show notes. I'll add that in there. Next, Blind Spot. This is a new series on NBC, and it starts with this lady who was found in a duffel bag, naked, and completely tattooed and no memory. They find her in the middle of Times Square with an FBI agent's name on her back, and the whole series about figuring out who she is, how she got there, and what's going on. So she kind of helps the FBI track down clues based on the tattoos on her body. Really interesting story, great characters. There's double cross, secret cross, triple cross. There's the CIA, the NSA, the FBI. Everybody has cross purposes, but it's a really interesting story. It's well done, well acted, and for a new show, I just kind of hope they keep it up. And again, that's called Blind Spot. The last of my television is The Blacklist. How great is James Spader as Red Reddington? The main protagonist. So, this guy is the number one on the FBI's most wanted list. One day he shows up, turns himself in, and he says he's going to help you catch all the people on this blacklist. So that's the deal he makes. And he has some strange relationship with this young lady that's a new profiler for the FBI, and he chooses her specifically to be his handler. And as the seasons go along, you learn more and more and more about what their relationship is, how they interact, or, what he has to do with her. Whether it's sleeper agents from Russia or, FBI, Mossad, all this going on. And this last season is really taken off. So now, the main character is now on the run. So now she's wanted by the FBI. Sorry if you haven't seen it, and I apologize for that spoiler, but how they get there is really the key, not what's going on specifically, but to now see the hunter as the hunted, and as the relationship between these two characters has developed over the seasons. It's a really interesting show. It's fun, popcorn television, water cooler television. Definitely can't wait till that comes back from winter break. Now, lastly, getting into the world of movies. As I mentioned in the beginning, Star Wars The Force Awakens came back, and I've seen it, and yes, Star Wars is back. People have, the bitter taste in their mouth from the prequels, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. And you have people that just, their love of all things Star Wars is just, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Well, this brings back the feeling of that you had in the first three movies. I felt it was a combination of Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. You had the drama, you had the action, you had the swashbuckling type, Han Solo's back, Princess Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO. And it introduces new characters to the Force to, imagine it's basically, this is 40 years or so after the events in Return of the Jedi. And for most people, the Jedi and the Sith are just, rumors. They're fairy tales. People don't believe they existed. But a new order has risen. The Republic is kind of still in charge, but in the ashes of the Empire, a new group has risen. And it's well told. The new characters are well developed. There's some comedy, there's some light moments. J.J. Abrams directed it. Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back, wrote this one, and I really think what they're doing now that they're making more Star Wars movies, it's definitely enjoyable, definitely worth checking out. I mean, I know people have seen it 5-6 times. I already saw it once. Can't wait till it's on Blu-ray. I would love to see it in IMAX or IMAX 3D. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, a couple of movies were surprises for me this year. Ant-Man, which was, who at various times was a member of the Avengers, so it's a Marvel universe. Paul Rudd stars as the title character. Michael Douglas stars as someone that used to be the Ant-Man, Hank Pym. So if you've ever read the comics, that's who Michael Douglas is. It's a wonderful entry, just kind of like you had Guardians of the Galaxy, where it was kind of the unexpected, not well-known characters that had a wonderful story and an exciting adventure. Well, Ant-Man is the comedy and adventure side of the Marvel Universe, and it's definitely worth checking out. Another movie from this year, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which stars Henry Cavill of Man of Steel fame and Armie Hammer of Lone Ranger. Henry Cavill plays an American CIA agent in the 60s, and Armie Hammer plays your prototypical Russian KGB type, and it just tells a story. The Man from U.N.C.L.E., U.N.C.L.E. is an acronym, and this is the story of the U.S. and the Russians working together to stop, an evil mastermind who wants to get nukes or something. It doesn't matter. It's a fun story. It's funny. It's exciting. They really hit it out the park with the time period. It feels like your old timey spy show, and it's based on the series The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Hope they make sequels because it's definitely interesting, and it's a fun movie. The next few, except one, well, I'll do that one first. Mission Impossible. Is it possible for Tom Cruise to keep making better and better Mission Impossible movies? Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is probably the best of the bunch. It seems like each iteration, he figures out everything that works and takes it to the next level and makes an even better movie. I thought Ghost Protocol, the previous one, was great, but Rogue Nation takes it to the next level because now you have a female protagonist that's in it who's just every bit as great as Tom Cruise's character, from action, from fighting, from intelligence to everything. And she's three-dimensional, so she's not just in the movie to be eye candy or arm candy. She's actually a major protagonist, and I think because of that, it made the movie that much better. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I almost forgot another one. This was a Disney film that people said was a bust with George Clooney. It's called Tomorrowland. Watched this with my wife and my kids several times. It is an excellent, wonderful, wonderful, fun tale. They basically took, the Tomorrowland ride and developed it into a well fleshed out movie. And it's really interesting. It's an exciting adventure. And if you haven't seen it, give it a chance. It's on Redbox. It's probably streaming on something else also. But if you haven't seen it, forget what people said about it costing a lot of money and being a bust. It's a wonderful movie. Tomorrowland, definitely a good family movie. Now, the last three movies I have on here, I saw not in the theaters, but I saw either on Redbox or through one of the streaming sites. The first was Interstellar, starring Matthew McConaughey, and Anne Hathaway. Yes, that's it, Anne Hathaway. So really, really phenomenal thinking man, thinking woman, you know, sci-fi picture that has a realness, a grittiness to it. Very thought-provoking. It's long, but it doesn't feel that long. It's beautifully shot, beautifully acted, and it's a wonderful, wonderful sci-fi story. Interstellar. And, I'm not going to give much, about it, other than the fact that it's in the future and the Earth is dying, and we need to figure out, can we find a new place to live? That's the premise. Michael Caine stars as an old scientist in it, and it's definitely worth checking out. Spend the night, rent it. It's Interstellar. It'd definitely be worth it. Next two were probably straight to DVD or straight to Netflix and Amazon. The first is called Coherence. I guess the best way to explain it is a group of people, about 8 people, are having a dinner party during the night when some comet is passing by the Earth, and something strange happens. I mean, that's the most I can say without giving anything away, but it's an excellent character piece. It's sci-fi, in this, almost feels like a Twilight Zone episode. I think that best sums it up. It feels like a classic Twilight Zone episode in movie length. Definitely worth checking out. It's called Coherence, and I want to say it's on Amazon Prime. Last movie on the list is Snowpiercer, and this stars, and I'm probably getting the name wrong, but the guy that plays Captain America. And it takes place in the future, global warming, the whole Earth is frozen over, and there's this one train that circumnavigates the globe. And, there's the haves and the have-nots. So there's people in the back of the train that are responsible for keeping the train running, and, they live in squalor, and the people in the front of the train have all the wonderful meals. They, their children get to learn, they get to go to school. So it's a very extreme class system. And this tells the story of, what happens when the people in the back of the train want to move to the front of the train. Definitely different, definitely, not what you would expect. It's dark. It's really dark. It's, a lot of the scenes are really dark, so, be prepared. And it's, it's violent at times, but it'll make you think. So if you haven't, go run out and check out Snowpiercer. So that's, that was 2015 for me. And again, probably the thing that surprised me the most, of course, was Hamilton the musical soundtrack. I wish I could fly up to New York and see the musical today. I think the First Family has seen it multiple times, and people talk about it all the time. But all the wonderful things on your streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, they've really come into their own. I hear good things for some things on Hulu. So there's a lot of opportunities, whether it's on, streaming from home or even in the movie theater. So movies aren't dead. Music isn't dead. Books aren't dead. So, if you thought they were, hey, surprise, surprise, they're not. Even in the world of tech, like I said, with the Apple Watch coming out this year and a lot of the Garmins and the Fitbits of the world, a lot of these fitness trackers are really taking off. Virtual reality headsets are starting to take off. And again, this year, they'll probably have the consumer models for games and for learning, enhanced learning, things along that line. Also, you'll... Google has their self-driving cars. Apple is supposed to be working on a Apple car. New iPads, new iPhones, new advances, and Samsung pads, and Windows 10 is, technology continues to grow in leaps and bounds. I think the super connected home is probably the next big thing. And the Consumer Electronics Show is going on right now. and more people, everything from your Nest thermostats to, everything you can control, the lights and your door locks right from your phone, or, things will turn off and on depending on when you walk in. So there's a lot of good things out there. The Amazon Echo, kind of like a virtual assistant. I think the next big thing, of course, will probably be, artificial intelligence, smart homes that know what you want, so you don't always have to tell it. I think there's a lot of wonderful things in store for 2016, and I look forward to sharing them with the audience of the Multifarious Man podcast. So when we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Again, I am Jay Vincent, and this is the Multifarious Man podcast. All right, we're back on the Multifarious Man podcast, episode 15, Back to the Future. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the ride so far. 15 episodes in, started the show in the last quarter of 2015, so I'm looking forward to really good things in 2016. Hope to grow the audience. Give me your feedback. Follow me at Twitter at Multifarious Man, on Facebook at Multifarious Man 2015. You can send me emails at multifarious.man.podcast@gmail.com. And again, you can follow the blog and sign up for the blog at multifariousman.com. And the podcast is available on all your major apps and services, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, so you can get the RSS feed where you need it. Check it out, spread the word. Let me know if there's something you want me to cover on future episodes. I also will continue to bring you interviews with local artists or artists from throughout the country, writers, musicians, actors. There's going to be a lot of good things. So again, thank you for, joining me on this journey through 2015. And I look forward to sharing many wonderful things with you in 2016. That's it. Like I always say, why be just various when you can be multifarious? And I am out.
Numerous and varied, greatly diverse and manifold. All the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand, I'm the multifarious man.